Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we are going over what was the craziest trade deadline in a while. Obviously, last year, Luka, you could argue that was crazier. I'm not going to get into that, but it was a crazy deadline, a phenomenal deadline. We saw a record amount of trades, a record amount of players being traded, a lot of good all-stars, a lot of good players were traded. Just a pure cinema, right? Aside from the Sixers, just completely, I don't even know. I don't know what Daryl Morey was on. Aside from that, very entertaining trade deadline. I want to talk about these trades. Let's break it down. Let's give grades for each team. Um, it was interesting. There's a lot to unpack here. Obviously, the main headline that I have up here for a reason. Giannis is keeping Bucks staying with Giannis, right? And it was interesting because when you have a player of that magnitude, top 3 player in the NBA, no doubt when he's healthy, being even up for trade in let alone mid-season. Like I just think that's probably the most interesting thing. I know he's been hurt, but we never the with the state of the NBA, probably before like even the COVID era, you never really saw top 5 players being traded mid-season. Like that has been a very new dynamic. Obviously, we've seen it with some guys like James Harden, Durant, all those dudes. I understand that there's trades that happen mid-season, but for a guy like Giannis, it would be interesting for the Bucks to trade him. He was averaging 28 and 10 before he got hurt. He's only 31 years old. Like this dude still has 5, 6 more good years in him. Any team that got him would be very, very beneficial immediately. So it was very interesting to see that they didn't want it, that there was even rumors about it in the first place. I'm honestly not too surprised that the Bucks didn't trade him. I'm sure they got a bunch of offers for him, but in an in-season trade, you're teams might offer expiring contracts of players. Like you don't want guys that are going to be off your team by next year. Obviously, you want some young and exciting picks and some draft picks, but like realistically, nobody's going to make that big of a play for Giannis in the season, in my opinion. So I think it's actually beneficial for the Bucks. They're going to be able to. They made some other trades this past week, but they're going to be able to kind of retool, maybe make a play and push. I don't really know, but then maybe listen to offers from him in the offseason. That wouldn't surprise me if he was going to be traded. And if it was going to happen, I would say it's going to be in the offseason when you get a better scope and better offers. You have more time to figure it out. You're not going to force a trade through. You're not trying to beat the clock. So overall, I think that's a very, very smart move by the Bucks, and it makes sense. It really does. So yeah, we're just gonna break down every single trade that pretty much happened this deadline because, like I said, it was a crazy deadline. And aside from that Trae Young trade, where Trae Young was traded to the Wizards in exchange for C.J. McCollum and Corey Kispert, this was pretty much the trade that just let it unleash, right? A very big blockbuster trade that just paved the way for so many more after this. And I went to Shams' account because it seems like he pretty much reported every single trade. I don't know if this dude slept the past 3 days, but that's besides the point. Pretty much it all started. The Grizzlies breaking. Grizzlies are trading star forward Jaren Jackson Jr. for John Concar, Jock Landale, and Vince Williams. That's a boatload of the package to the Jazz for Walter Clayton Jr., Kyle Anderson, Taylor Hendricks, George Niang, and 3 future first-round picks. It was a huge, huge blockbuster deal. Jaren Jackson Jr., interesting player. He's spent his whole career in Memphis, and I thought 2 years ago when the Grizzlies were the number 1 seed, I thought that might have been the year. You saw John Morant looking very good with Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr., and that core is pretty much officially broken up. Bane was bye-bye this offseason when he went trading to the Magic, and then now you're seeing Jaren Jackson Jr. trading to the Jazz. One thing that's pretty eye-opening, it looks like the Jazz are finally going to go all in. They're making that push. You have 24-point-plus scorers in Keontae George and Lauri Markkanen, and then not to mention you have Walker Kessler and company around that. So, I mean, that alone is very, very promising and a good core to have. Obviously, the price you're giving up, I mean, not crazy. Like Kyle Anderson, George Niang are expired contracts. Taylor Hendricks, Walton Clayton Jr. are 2 young, good pieces. The 3 future first-round picks is a lot, but it seems like the Jazz have a young enough core to the point where they're not really going to have to worry too much about that. So I think that's really worth noting. And you look at their depth chart here, obviously a very, 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 very rough looking record. But you look at this depth chart here, and let me just fix this so you guys can kind of get a better view for it. You look at this depth chart here. Keontae George, Cody Williams, Ace Bailey, Laurie Marketing, Jaren Jackson Jr. That is a young, promising core in my eyes. Keontae George has had a phenomenal year. 24 24 points, averaging pretty much 7 assists, 14th in the NBA. He is the best, one of the most exciting guards I've watched. And then you look at Ace Bailey, who's had a decent rookie year. A lot of animosity coming out of the draft with him about what was kind of going to be, if he was going to be good, if he was going to be bad. Took him pick 5. Sixers, that was one of the biggest debacles all summer. Is it going to be VJ Edgecombe or Ace Bailey? I'm very, very happy what we went with. I don't really regret it at all. VJ is a way better player in my eyes, but Ace Bailey's not been bad. And then you have some more guard depth in Isaiah Collier, who has averaging pretty much 10 and 7 with averaging 50% from the field when he's played. Played in 43 games this year. He's a very good bench piece. That's a great developing player that you can have. So like I said, you have those 3 draft picks, but I'm not worried. I'm really not worried at all. And they also did get Lonzo Ball, but I'm not worried. And then you go to your forwards. I'm also still not worried. Filipowski, 22 years old, averaging 10 and 6. I will take that all day. And is only in his second year. And then obviously Laurie Markkinen, who is 9th in the NBA in scoring, seven rebounds a game. He has taken a major leap at this point in his career. You could see his prior stats pretty much 27-19. Like, he was averaging good numbers, but this is like a huge leap. The only issue for him is really just staying healthy. Obviously, he's battled some injuries in the past. And then obviously Bryce Sensabaugh, who, again, another phenomenal piece. And then you have Cody Williams. The Jazz have just done an amazing job retooling this roster completely. And then you throw Jaren Jackson into the mix as well. You can't complain. You really can't complain, because it is truthfully just a very exciting team that I think the NBA is going to really understand. And obviously, Kessler being out for the rest of the year, he was averaging 15 and 10. Nurkic pretty much taking over that role. Sheboy's young as well. Bottom line, the Jazz have some young pieces that they can work with, and I'm not too worried about giving up those 3 first-round picks at all. I'm not worried about it. Obviously, a very bad record this year. You look at the NBA standings; they're pretty much at the bottom of the barrel. But it's going to be just a men year, just getting some of those guys, blended together, finding out what playbooks work, what plays work, how to make some adjustments. And then I have no doubt about it that Quinn Snyder is going to be able to whoop this team into shape come next year. I have no doubt about it. 16-35 record, obviously not great, but Jaren Jackson should help with that as well. So that was pretty much the main big first trade that kind of had the NBA, had the league like, all right, yeah, we got to make something happen. Honestly, I was not expecting it to be completely honest with you. I wasn't expecting Jaren Jackson to get traded. It looked like they're just that situation in Memphis was never going to work out, but it was kind of too soon to tell. You never really know. So that was pretty much the big trade. Then going forward a little bit, we saw Chicago, Minnesota, and Detroit in a 3-team deal where Jaden Ivey, he just had a rough year, but he's young. I have no doubt that he'll be able to, bounce back in his young career. Jaden Ivey and Mike Conley Jr. to the Bulls, Kevin Huerter and Dario Saric to the Pistons. So the Dario Saric trade, I forgot there was another trade before the Jaren Jackson trade, but Saric got traded to the Bulls. He gets traded again. Kevin Huerter and Saric to the Pistons. Detroit also received that 2026 first-round protected swap. So it seemed like what I thought initially, it seemed like Minnesota was trying to dump that salary, get rid of Mike Conley, make a play for Giannis. That's what I thought it was going to be, but I was wrong, obviously, because Giannis didn't get traded. Honestly, not a huge trade, to be completely honest with you. And then we saw another crazy trade. The Bulls pretty much went all out this trade deadline. They sent Vucevic and a second-round pick. Vucevic is 34 for a young and balling Anthony Simons. An amazing, amazing trade for the Boston Celtics. For the Chicago Bulls. And you look at the Bulls roster right now, they're 24 and 27, sitting pretty much in the middle of the pack in the Eastern Conference. And honestly, I have to be excited if I'm a Bulls fan. You look at the end, they pretty much have a completely new roster, but you look at their depth chart, it's an exciting lineup. Josh Giddey, who's having a phenomenal year, not phenomenal, but he's been good. He has the numbers that you would want. Anthony Simons, who was averaging 14 points off the bench. Now he's going to slide it right into that starting lineup. I would expect 20 a night from him at least. Isaiah Okoro, who they also got as well. He was on the team this past year, but not the best numbers, but it is what it is, right? And then you obviously have Matas Buzelis, who's probably the most exciting rookie that came out of that draft class in my eyes. Could argue Jaron McCain, whatever you want to argue, but Matas is phenomenal. Bulls nailed that draft pick. So honestly, just a ton of new faces around around this team a lot, obviously. Center, I'm a little worried about. Like, Nick Richards is your backup center. Jalen Smith's your starting center. Jalen Smith's fine. But Jaden Ivey, I think, will be able to revive his career as well. And Colin Sexton's still a phenomenal guard. So, again, it's a new retooled roster that's going to take some time. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to make a play for a star come this offseason. I definitely think that's in play for sure. So I'm liking that trade for the. I'm liking what how the Bulls are looking. But strictly in terms of this trade, fleece job by the Bulls, getting rid of that old Vooch for a young Anthony Simons. It makes sense. Then it took us a little bit, but then we all knew this trade was pretty much coming. James Harden for Darius Garland. I think the Cavs think they have a better chance of winning now with Harden opposed to later with Darius Garland, who's going to take some more time to develop. I personally think that the Clippers are going to win this trade. Once I saw this trade, I thought that there was a high chance that Kawhi Leonard was going to get traded. I was wrong. He did not. So, yeah, you saw Harden get traded for Garland in a pretty much one-for-one swap, which, I mean, you pretty much have 11 years of development out the door just by acquiring James Harden. So, interesting dynamic for the Cavs. But I think the Cavs believe that they can truly win a championship this year with Harden. And we've seen some rumors that LeBron's going to have a farewell tour there next year. It wouldn't surprise me, but I don't really think that's going to play a role too much into if they win a championship or not. I think LeBron by next year, he's just going to be there to be there. Which I hate to say, but I think it's true. And so, yeah, Clippers obviously are going to take a little bit more of a retool. We can go to their roster as well. But I really did think that they were going to trade Kawhi because it's like you have Harden and Kawhi. You feel like you can kind of make a play, but you don't. And by this point, when you're a 500 team, you kind of just have to decide, like, are we going to be buyers? Are we going to be sellers? What's our dynamic for this upcoming year? And we saw that they pretty much wanted to sell. Obviously, there was some later trades as made as well later that makes me think they can still make a run. But Garland being the main guy that they brought in, he's 26 years old. He has some time to develop. He hasn't really cracked gotten to the point you would want him to. But we've seen strides from him. I think with a prominent front court, he might be able to have a little bit more of an impact. But we saw that. And then we saw Benedict Mathurin get traded later on, which we can talk about. But overall, I do like the youngness that the Clippers got. They got a lot of picks, so a decent amount of picks. They traded Zubac. Brook Lopez is still old enough. But it does pain me to not see Kawhi get some support and try to make another play for that finals, get another ring. I thought that's what they were going to do. I was wrong. All right, yeah. So going back, obviously we saw that trade, and then this was kind of a signifier. Like, all right, we're just gonna make a ton of trades. We all kind of saw that trade coming. Shams broke the news, and then February 4th, middle of the day, we got this. The biggest trade in my eyes of this deadline, just on the significance and the value. Obviously, the Mavericks last year were in the news. The talks of the NBA for pretty much the rest of the season from the trade deadline onward, trading what was at the time 26-year-old Luka Doncic, generational talent, just because the GM didn't think he was fit enough to be a star. Blah blah blah. I don't know. That's in the past. They did end up kind of getting Cooper Flag out of it, but then you just look and you see, all right, Anthony Davis is gone. He didn't even play a full season's worth of games in Dallas for them to just give up on him. And this is just a crazy package. Anthony Davis, 10-time All-Star. Like I said, this is where the Wizards are going to make a play. We'll look at the roster in a minute. But Anthony Davis, Jaden Hardy, who's very young. D'Angelo Russell, man, this dude's still, he's going to average at least 12 a night for you. Dante Exum, for pretty much nothing really in return. Like, if I'm the Mavericks, I don't know how I didn't milk at least one of the Keyshawn George, Bilal Coulibaly, or Bub Carrington in this deal. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me why the Mavs would even make this trade. Chris Middleton is 35 by now. A.J. Johnson's young. Malachi Branham's young. Marvin Bagley's just Marvin Bagley. 2 first-round picks and 3 second-rounders. They're stacking up. They're trying to develop around Cooper Flag, but I just don't understand how you couldn't have at least gotten one of those young guys from the Sixers lineup. And it's just crazy. It's just a crazy, crazy trade, and nobody really expected it. Nobody expected the Wizards to kind of even make a run for this. But I think it's been worth noting what they turned Luka Doncic essentially into. What they essentially Luka Doncic was essentially turned into. So let's see if we can find that. Because You look at right here. So you look at the revisited trade, and it's an eye-opening kind of development, right? Lakers get Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, Markieff Morris. Uh, Mavericks get Max Christie, Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson, Malachi Branham. 4 players with not crazy significance. 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks. I just don't really know how I feel about that, considering what you gave up in the first place for Luka Doncic, and then you got Anthony Davis back. You didn't really get even like a season's worth of games out of him. You just gave up on him right away. And the Mavericks still have Kyrie Irving. So like when you think about Kyrie Irving being healthy Kyrie Irving, then you have Cooper Flagg, then you have Anthony Davis. Like, that's not a bad 3 at all. And then you have a decent supporting cast, Daniel Gafford, Najee Marshall. Like, those aren't bad players. So I think it's really, really interesting the way this last year has gone for the Mavericks, because nobody could have really predicted it at all. I mean, the Mavs had Jalen Brunson and Luka Doncic on the same team once. Like, that is a huge, huge what-if story that I don't think any of us really would have ever predicted. But let's just look at the Pistons. The Wizards' depth chart. Obviously, Trae Young's not going to play this year. Anthony Davis probably won't play that much either. He's hurt. So it's going to be just getting the young guys the tick that they want. Trey Johnson, obviously, too. I forgot they even had him. Like, just phenomenal young pieces. Keyshawn George, Bilal Coulibaly. Like, I was skeptical about these picks, but Keyshawn George has had a huge second year. Coulibaly's taken some okay jumps. I'm just going to give him more time. That's all these guys need. They need more time. Champagne's been a phenomenal signing for some decent money, and he's young. And then, obviously, Alex Sarr as well, who's just phenomenal in his third year. Then you have Bob Carrington, obviously off the bench, and Will Riley. And then you add in the veteran presence of Trae Young, Anthony Davis, Jaden Hardy's not bad, D'Angelo Russell. This team's definitely going to be able to compete next year. I have no doubt about it. I'm liking what the Wizards have done. They've been aggressive. Like I said, this is another team where they're not worried about their picks. They believe they have the young pieces they need to formulate a championship, and I'm with them. I believe so too. I think that this is a phenomenal, phenomenal job that the Wizards have done, considering where they were just a few years ago. They've really, really transformed what was an old team with a mix of just shitty rookies. Now they've just really transformed the team, and I'm proud of what they've done. Not to mention they still have Cam Whitmore as well, who he's out for the rest of the year, but when he's played, he's been pretty decent. So again, another piece to add to the equation for the Wizards, and that was probably the most. One of the biggest, if probably the biggest trade of that entire trade deadline that we saw play out. But let's go back to Shams' account, because, like I said, he pretty much predicted, and every trade was from him. So you got to scroll down here. But then so that was pretty much the main attraction, I would say, and the most intriguing trade that we saw the entire day. And then literally not even like 5 minutes later, I checked on my computer. Jared McCain to the Thunder. Now, I think this is the perfect time to talk about the Sixers, because when they, obviously yesterday I tried uploading a video, the audio was messed up, got copyrighted, whatever. But when Jared McCain was originally traded, I thought in the video that I had, and I can try to repost it later, but I said it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, the only way this makes sense is if you're using what you got in return as trade bait to try to make another play. Try to make a play at Kawhi Leonard. I thought that Kawhi Leonard was definitely going to be on the table. I'm sure the Clippers listened to offers. The talks weren't big enough for me to really believe that it was going to happen. But I thought that you're going to get a 2026 first-round pick. You're going to get 3 second-round picks. You want to have better name value that Jared McCain or those 4 picks, which has more trade value. They probably thought those 4 picks. So I was thinking, obviously you want to get under the tax. There's other ways you can get under the tax. You could have gotten rid of Eric Gordon, which they did today. But I was thinking, like, okay, we're going to make a trade. We got all this value. And then Daryl Morey just sat on his ass all day long and didn't make anything happen. And it is just so frustrating being a Sixers fan, being a Philly sports fan. We pretty much saw the same thing play out with the Phillies. They didn't bring back Harrison Bader just because they thought that what they had was suitable. They wanted to just kind of duck that luxury tax. And it's just very, very frustrating for me, because it doesn't make any sense. Why would you just trade away a very young, prominent piece on your team? Like, I'm trading Kelly Oubre before I'm trading Jared McCain. I'm trading Quentin Grimes before I'm trading Jared McCain. Not to mention, you want to get rid of roster spots so you can convert Don Barlow and Jabari Walker's contracts, but you still let Eric Gordon and Kyle Lowry on the team, which I even talked about in the video. But Now you're going to trade Eric Gordon, and now you're going to you 3 roster spots open. 2 of them are going to go to Barlow and Walker, and then they signed Patrick Baldwin to a 10-day contract. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me what Daryl Morey was trying to do. And not to mention, the thing that sticks out the most is that Joel Embiid was asking for so long, like, don't duck the text, be aggressive. This is our year, and Daryl Morey just doesn't care. Josh Harris and this ownership, they don't care. They just care about the Devils. They care about the Commanders. The Sixers are just not existent in their minds. And enough is enough. Hashtag sell the team. Whatever it's going to take, something needs to occur because if we don't at least make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, I mean that is how above my expectations are, like how high they are. Then Morey needs to go. Embiid's probably going to be a huge conversation this offseason, and you're going to build a team around Maxey and Edgecombe. That's truthfully what it's going to be. I thought Jared McCain was in the Sixers' future plans. I was wrong. I don't know what Daryl Morey's idea is, but I don't like it, and I don't like what's going on. Not to mention, it's just such a bad look when you have Joel Embiid, who has literally been your best franchise, probably a top 5 player the Sixers have ever had, talk about pretty much calling you out, Daryl Morey. He called you out, and he said, I want this, and you just went against him. It just shows they don't care about their players. This ownership, this organization, the executives, the general manager, they don't care. They don't care. They just don't care, and it's unfortunate, and it's definitely sad. But I could ramble about that all day. That was a big trade. Then we saw Kobe White get traded to the Hornets. Again, Kobe White was a pretty good player. Then there was not really anything other too significant. Chris Paul got traded, but he's probably going to get waived. We saw Lonzo get traded. These trades weren't crazy at all, to be quite honest with you. Tyus Jones got traded for cash consideration. It's just dumping a lot of these one-year expiring contract players. Then we saw probably one of the more bigger trades we saw at this deadline. We saw Kuminga and Buddy Hield to the Hawks for Kristaps Porzingis. Honestly, I think that the Warriors are giving up a little. I don't know. Kristaps he's older. You're just kind of adding to an already older team. Obviously, Kuminga has been the center of pretty much the Warriors trade talks for the past 2 years. I thought the Sixers were going to make a play for him a few years back. Obviously not. Why would the Sixers do that? But yeah, Buddy Hield on expiring contract. He's a good player. But Kuminga, we'll see what he can do. There was all that talk last year. Steve Kerr didn't play him in the playoffs, blah, blah, blah. But Kuminga's good. He's a good player when he's healthy. So I'm excited to see him get another chance. Him and Jalen Johnson are going to be a very good front court. And I'm liking it. And then Kristaps obviously is an older player, but I think the Hawks have done a good job just retooling, getting out of the Trae Young hangover, I guess you could call it in a way. I don't really know what I'm going to call it, but Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, Kuminga, now you add in the mix. It's a young, promising team. I'm liking what I'm seeing. We can bring it up as well, just for the good of the group, so you guys can see everything that's pretty much gone on with this Hawks team ever since the Sixers series. I haven't really liked the Hawks, but Nickeil Alexander-Walker has had a phenomenal year. He's averaging 20 points somehow, and he's only 27 years old. That's been one of the most shocking developments. But look at their depth chart. Obviously, Dyson Daniels as well. Decent numbers, nothing crazy. He's only 22 years old, given time. CJ McCollum's coming off the bench. Kuminga's probably going to come off the bench. I totally forgot that Reece Shea was even on this team. He's having not phenomenal, but he's having a good year. You asked what the young players are doing what you want them to do. Asa Newell, I forgot they drafted him. And then obviously you add in Kuminga to the mix. Jalen Johnson's also averaging 23, 10, and 4. Probably the best 3 numbers across the categories. I mean, he's like top 10 in rebounds and assists, and then top 20 in scoring. Okongwu's not bad either. This is not a bad team. I think the Hawks probably have one of the better valuable asset-wise team in the NBA. So I think that's really exciting. Very exciting, actually, I would say. So that was another bigger trade we saw. And then I think one of the more other trades that's really just worth noting. Obviously, Trayson Jackson-Davis got traded to the Raptors today. That was I don't know what the Warriors are really doing, to be honest with you. Dasunu got traded for Rob Dillingham, Leonard Miller, and 4 second-round picks. That was quite the package deal. Again, this made me really think that. 4 second-round picks. After I saw this trade, I'm like, all right, Giannis isn't going to get traded. To be honest with you, it just didn't make sense. And then again, a lot of decent trades, nothing crazy. Jose Alvarado to the Knicks, absolute steal for the Knicks. I don't know what the Sixers were sleeping on. Then we saw Eric Gordon get traded, so obviously Don Barlow could get converted to a two-way. Thank God Gordon's gone. And I would say this is probably the last big trade we saw. We saw Zubac to the Pacers for a crazy package. A Benedict Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, 2 first-round picks, and 1 second-round pick for Zubac. That's it. Like, I might need what are Zubac's stats? Like, I need to look this up. What are his stats? That's a crazy-ass package. This is all he had this year. Well, that's his total That's his total stats. This season, 14, 4, 11, and 61%. Like, you should just re-sign Miles Turner at that point. You're giving up a shit ton of picks for an okay player back who's already 28, 30 years old. It doesn't make any sense to me. So overall, I don't like that trade for the Pacers, who are already having a tremendously bad year. And then that was pretty much the last huge trade. And then there was just some other trades where teams were just swapping players. And then the last crazy thing I saw was Nets waiving Cam Thomas. He'll get picked up immediately. I'd love for the Sixers to do that, but that obviously won't happen. And that was pretty much it, main trade-wise for the trade deadline. So overall, just a wild deadline. I would honestly, personally, my biggest winners on the deadline. I'm gonna put them up so you guys can see. Biggest winners on the deadline. I think are 3 main teams that made good trades for the right price. 4 teams, we'll say. Bulls, Hawks, Clippers, and the Jazz. Like I said, the Bulls completely retooled that entire roster. The Hawks just got younger, and they got younger for good price. Nothing too crazy. Clippers, I believe, also had a very good deadline. Just because they're getting younger now, they have a better scope of their roster. James Harden, that drama is gone. And then the Jazz, like I said, the right picks for the right amount of players. It's a young core. It's exciting. And then you could throw in the Wizards there as well. Sixers are probably the biggest loser if I had to pick one. Warriors definitely lost that trade deadline out as well. Overall, I would say it was an exciting deadline. I was happy with what I saw. I think it was really, really interesting, and it was pure cinema. I'm excited to see how the second half of the season goes. I want to post more Sixers content, more NBA content. We can do a bunch of things like that. Obviously, Super Bowl this Sunday. I'll try to get a video out after the Super Bowl, maybe regarding the Super Bowl. I don't know, the future of the NFL, mock drafts, post-Super Bowl mock draft. That's what it's going to be. But this is probably going to be the last video until after the Super Bowl. So thank you guys so much for watching from me to the end. I appreciate all the support that I'm constantly getting. It really, really, truly does mean a lot. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.